Hey everybody, what's up? Zuda coming to you once again with another VOD. This VOD is a little different than last time. This VOD is going to be the very first episode of a series of videos that I'm going to make called Inside AOEO. And what I'm going to do with Inside AOEO is it's basically going to be a series of commentated VODs of high-level gameplay, not necessarily played solely by myself, and from my point of view, maybe from other good players as well. I'm going to be analyzing gameplay and trying to come up with a theme for the gameplay, and trying to use those as examples of how people can improve and how people can learn builds better and stuff like that. So this first episode is going to be in two parts. The two parts are two games, both EVE, played against the same player, and that other player is Samwise12. Samwise12 is someone who I have a lot of respect for and have played a lot of games with, not only in Age of Empires Online already, but back in Age of Empires 3 as well. Was a very skilled player in Age of Empires 3 and is expected to be the same coming into the AOEO scene. So these two games are a little exercise on improving your build orders from game to game and learning how to adapt your build orders, and especially when the game is young like it is now, learning how to improve your build orders and always constantly be getting better. So you take a look at the starting build. It's pretty similar to what I did in my last VOD. Basic idea is just to get an early storehouse down, get the early pickers gloves, 4 villagers on food, and then get the temple down as soon as possible. And the whole premise behind that is to get out the first camel, get camel control, and then just kind of see where it goes from there. In this game I've got, well actually in both of these two games, I've got kind of a specific idea that I'm throwing around, and that is a double stable start, and using camels to get the better camel mass and kind of keep control of slingers. Back in earlier in beta, a lot of people were, complaining about how strong slinger openings are, and although slingers are strong and they're very important and they're an integral part of this matchup, they're probably really not the best thing to open with. One of the last changes I was involved with before I left MGS was a fairly hefty nerf to their HP, which makes them very fragile units. And actually, I've come to find, in some of my games now that I've been playing on the release realms, that starting camels is probably quite a bit better than starting just opening straight up slinger, because when you start opening straight up slinger, and the other guy opens camels, you get one camel out, he gets one slinger out. Because of the HP nerf, the camel kills the slinger, and then they have map control and they can run all around. And so that kind of led into a very quick evolution of, if the other guy's making a stable, and I make a stable, and then he makes a barracks, and I make another stable, then in theory, 4 camels against 2 camels and 2 slingers, you would have the better mass and you would win again. And so it kind of quickly evolved into that kind of gameplay as well. And this is just us playing around, trying some new stuff out, but that seems to be what is working well at the moment. As I say that, who knows what tomorrow will bring as well. So you can see I go in and poke with my first camel. That's always a good thing to do, and I run right into that spearman. And of course, that's the kind of thing you want to avoid, but it's whatever. It happens. You always want to try and keep poking around with those camels. See, I come around from the edge, just trying to see what I can see. I've seen that he's gone dock, and I have not gone dock, which means that economically he's probably quite a bit ahead of me right now, even if his fish isn't so great. And so I want to try and slow down his economy as much as I can with those early camels. Unfortunately, he's got the spearmen out, and he's doing a good job of predicting my movement of the camels and keeping his base nice and tight, and has a good layout. So there's not much I can do, but it kind of still has the effect that I want. And so the basic effect is, get camels out, get mobility, use that mobility to run around the map, maintain map control, keep him in his base, and then do one of two things. If you think that you can age and can sneak an age up in, you go ahead and you age. If you can't, and you think, you know, hey, he's got too big of a mass, then you stick it out and you start making barracks units yourself, while still having the camel presence and keeping, you know, a good mass of camels around, and you know, keeping in his economy and trying to, you know, put 3, 4, 5 camels inside of his economy every time a fight breaks out. That's the ideal goal. That's not necessarily what always happens, but that's the basic idea: is to keep camels out, keep them running around, keep them moderately active, and try and keep his army locked down into place and abuse my mobility the best I can. So you can see here, transitioning, making a lot of camels and starting to mix in a couple barracks. Right now I'm kind of undecided what I'm going to do. You know, I see he's got only those 2 barracks that have got scattered out front. I know he's building more barracks, and I certainly anticipate that he'll continue to make more military units, but with that really economically heavy start, I kind of anticipate that his military spam is going to be a little slower off the bat, and then get bigger and bigger as time goes on. And so this is when I start to get the great idea, hey, you know, let's age. Let's try and sneak in nature. Let's see how this timing works out. And so right now you can kind of see my base layout. I've got 2 barracks and 2 stables. I don't have a lot of military units, but at the same time I'm pushing. I'm trying to be active with my camels. I'm trying to pick off villagers, trying to pick off houses, pick off anything I can, and you know, I come poke here and I see, okay, you know, he's making more barracks. He's kind of staying in his base, playing defensively, which is good for me. At least initially it seems like it's good. I've kind of kept him where I want him to be. I've kept him in his base. I've raided around, I've killed 1 house, I've killed a barracks. All looks well and good. But at the same time, you have to realize I'm behind economically because, you know, I'm aging up. I've forgone quite a few resources that I could use to make units and make military production facilities, to make armories, make more priestesses, more storehouses, you know, all those kinds of things you could use all those resources for, and have decided to tech instead. And we'll see how that comes back actually to bite me a little bit later. You can see he continues with the spam. He's just making units, and at this time I'm actually feeling pretty good about myself. You know, I've got my temple nearly up. I'm almost aged. I've got, I think, pretty good map control. I've managed to keep him in his base. I don't think he's too far out. I kill his scout. You know, all seems well and good for me. But you'll see what kind of problem I run into here very shortly. And that problem is, you know, once again coming back, dealing with the large number of slingers. And so you can kind of see how the problem is going to set itself up. I've got 3 stables now. I'm going into kind of a chariot and camel kind of play, which is good, but not necessarily good in this matchup. Remember, he's going to have a lot of slingers. He's going to be able to kite me. He's going to have a lot of spearmen as well. He's going to keep those up front to keep his slingers kind of buffered from my camels. And although I do have a tech advantage on him, I'm very soon going to be running out of food, which means I'm not going to really have much of a way to deal with mass slingers. Which, you know, I could make slingers myself, which would be good, being they could be upgraded, yet I've kind of sold myself on this camel and chariot type play as well. So you can see this engagement coming in here. Actually, I don't think it's going to end up good for me, and then it actually does end up pretty good for me, so I was actually quite pleased with how that ended up. I got my X-Men in a pretty good spot, and the camel upgrade had just finished right as I engaged, which ended up being good for me. But what I really need right now is I need war elephants, right? I need some way to deal with all of his slinger and his mass slingers. And camels, you know, can cut it when you're in small numbers, but when you're in large numbers, you know, you really need either the direct counter, which is elephants, or slingers. And so I come out pretty good in this fight. I keep his numbers down. But remember what I was saying before. You know, I lose out on the economic advantage that he has. You know, he's been fishing. Now he's been just spamming units, getting eco upgrades, doing all that good stuff. And although I'm ahead momentarily in military, he can just make his whole army back again. And so you can kind of see that here. I chase, and I actually feel pretty good about myself right now. But you know, you can see my food value is just really, really low, running out of resources. Um, and it's just not good for me. So I come up here and poke, and holy cow, he's got a huge army again, which is not good for me. Is, you know, I'm kind of scrambling to get more military buildings down, and all that kind of stuff, you know. And at this point in time, it's just like, wow, he's got a lot of stuff, and so that's where I kind of start thinking, you know, maybe this isn't the best way to approach it. Maybe there's a better way to approach it. Maybe, you know, the whole opening, the idea of the opening of making a lot of camels, harassing, keeping his early numbers down if possible, winning the early engagements if forced to, and then using the camels for map control. But maybe there's a better transition out of that. And so we'll kind of, looking into part 2, we'll look at how I kind of modified that transition and try to play a different transition off of the 2 stable start. And that's kind of what this whole episode is going to be about, is game to game, day to day, learning from your mistakes, learning how you can be a better player by just kind of analyzing your own stuff. You know, even if you don't have fraps or you don't have any way to watch it, just kind of think back, you know, what happened in the game, what went wrong, and how can I improve it. So you can see here, obviously he's got a lot of slingers, I've got a lot of chariots, which isn't going to end well for me. And you know, I'm just going to